whatever illegality or illegal action is conducted anywhere, it's illegality, whether it's PDP or APC. I started by saying that what happened in Akwa Ibom is a black eye to our democracy. However, we must look
But are you ready?
as...
But you're not acknowledging. You're saying it's a black eye to our democracy, but you're not willing to acknowledge that it's a black eye to your party. Is it not a black eye to your party?
It is not a party thing. It's not a party thing. Because we have a court order judicially issued to say you can't remove these people. And then you have a PDP-led government in Akwa Ibom disobey a court order. So you can't say it's APC or PDP. What you see is illegality going on. Because you say, what kind of people are we electing to serve at these places? Okay. What type of people?
Mr. Nwoye, let's look at the issues more holistically now. Taking more of a broad overview, at what point, and I'm going to allow you to also answer this question, Mr. Agbo, at what point do we decide as a country that we're going to value the credibility and strength of our institutions above the politics of the moment? Because whether you're talking about 2014 in River State for PDP or you're talking about 2018 in Akwa Ibom State for APC, it comes down to the same issues. At what point does the leadership of not just the country but also of the parties involved decide that those who do illegal acts should be punished, whether they're APC or PDP? Mr. Nwoye?
At the point when the citizenry begins to elect credible individuals to serve. When you are a credible candidate and you're elected to serve, and you understand your responsibility as a servant of the people, either as a house member, or a senator, or governor, or what have you, then first of all, you obey the law of the land. When you begin to obey the law of the land, then self-help will begin to fiddle away. But what you see is self-help. Whether it's APC involved in self-help or PDP involved in self-help, is because someone decided to play an emperor in the system. Someone decided, I want my own police chief. And people defect, I don't want them to defect, I want you to remove them because they defected. And then when there's a court order is issued, someone decided, we're not going to obey the court order. We're just going to say that we have done it, and we have done it anyway. Even if we got it wrong, we got it wrong anyway. So once you have statesmen serving, once you have patriotic citizens serving and understanding that this country belongs to all of us, this country belongs to the generality of Nigeria, not a country for APC, not a country for PDP, but a country of Nigerians. Once we understand that, once we agree to be patriotic citizens, then we know that there's right and there's wrong. Then we know that the law of the land is supreme, and that when a judge passes an order, pass a judgment, we must obey those judgments.
Let me ask you, Mr. Nwoye, before I go to Mr. Agbo, taking into account all of what you have just said, in view of the reality that this comes down to the Cold War that has been brewing between the former governor of Akwa Ibom State and former Senate Minority Leader Godswill Akpabio and the current governor, Mr. Udom Emmanuel, and knowing that this is an offshoot of all of that, at what point should the national leadership of your party, for example, just for example, or of the country, come out publicly and say, we will not, even if there is illegality on one side, we will not respond with illegality, or whatever the case may be. There hasn't been that. There has just been merely a public shifting of blame. Should there not be some accountability on the part of those who are currently governing this country and manning the institutions that we're talking about at a leadership level?
Of course, there should be accountability. But what you're looking at is the breakdown of law and order. And that is why the governor now, who they accuse him of being the instigator of the crisis, I'm not saying he is, but that's the accusation there, is calling for declaration of state of emergency. But he has a responsibility. He has to look down within. He is the chief executive of the state. So when there's a breakdown of law and order, he must examine himself, not to pass blames to Akpabio or to APC or to the leadership of the police force, but look within. What did you do? We know that most houses of assembly are rubber stamp. They just work at the pleasure of the governor. So if you find out that your house of assembly are going against the law, you have a responsibility to call them to order. Same also apply at the national level.
Mr. Agbo, I want you to respond, please.
Well, I want to start with his last statement. Far way back, 92, to the glory of God, I served as a legislator at the state level, and who were not rubber stamps. But that's just by the way. state institutions recognized by the Constitution of this country cannot be described as rubber stamps by the leadership of the opposition, of a party in government. If that is their concept and that is their thinking, fine, well, that is too bad for our democracy. Now, moving forward, your question precisely is, at the point at which we are, we must constitutionally strengthen our institutions by providing for them in a way and manner that the leadership of these institutions are precluded from the whims and caprices of sitting chief executives. These are doable. Even if it requires constitutional amendment, we are passing through this, we are passing through a phase. And as a nation, what should bother us more is whatever are the pitfalls of today, whatever are the mistakes of today, whatever are the totalitarian acts of the operators of today, what checks and balances do we think we can bring into the system to ensure that moving forward, even when we have people with such tendencies elected under any platform, that the law or the provisions of the law haven't precluded those institutions from such tendencies of those elected, cannot prevent misuse of national institutions.
Mr. Agbo, I believe that's a fine place to leave it. Unfortunately, we have run out of time. One thing that is certain is I know that our viewers, irrespective of party affiliation, would agree that we would all like to see institutions run credibly and independently in our country. With that, I just want to thank you for coming on and sharing your thoughts this morning.
Thank you.
I have been speaking with two gentlemen, Mr. Emmanuel Agbo, who is the Deputy National Secretary of the Opposition People's Democratic Party, and Mr. Ben Nwoye, who is the chairman of the Enugu State chapter of the governing All Progressives Congress. At this juncture, we close this segment, and I now hand over to Lagos, where Chamberlain is standing by.